HERPath, the podcast for busy women looking for purpose, health, and happiness. In this episode, we're diving into the subconscious mind, or the feeling mind. So your subconscious mind refers to that part of your mind that operates at the level or below the level of your conscious awareness. And it's estimated that 95% of all of our thoughts and actions are unconscious, which is kind of crazy. But it can be also thought of as your autopilot. It's directing your mind most strongly from being in utero until around 7 or 8. And it's the reason children can learn things so fast, because they learn them through observation, osmosis, and eavesdrop learning. And if you think of all the things that babies and children learn, like how to make their needs known, language, walking, tying their shoes, there's so much. And when it gets learned, it gets put into their subconscious mind because it's efficient, and our minds love efficiency. So if you needed to consciously think about every step in your life, like brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, all the things you do out of habit just to get ready for your day, your mind would be completely exhausted by noon. Children pick up things that are said to them, around them, and over them, and they make meanings and beliefs from that. And those become the filters through which we experience our life. And your subconscious mind is like a sponge. It can't reject anything. So if you grew up with your parents or caregivers were so busy working that they didn't have any quality time to spend with you, you may have gotten or interpreted it as, I'm not worthy to receive love, even though your parents were working long and extra hours to provide a home for you. So the belief that I'm not worthy or I'm not enough are two of the most common beliefs that people have. And quite possibly it's based on circumstances that might not even be true, and yet it runs our life. So let me ask you guys a minute how you think your subconscious mind influences you, and if you have any examples you might want to share. Elise, anything pop into your mind?
Yeah, so just what you said about how you were raised, I find that how I was raised really does influence my thoughts on what's right and what's wrong, very black and white. And I have a hard time seeing other ways. So my parents were always available to me. It was a very calm, quiet household. There was always lots of love in our household. We were always treated with respect, discussions, conversations. I grew up with a sociologist and an occupational therapist, right? So everything in our lives was a sociology experiment, right? So there was never about getting angry or yelling. It was about, it's a teachable moment. And I find it hard to be in environments where there's so much yelling or putting people down. And because it's so foreign from what I grew up in. But I know that in a lot of ways, those are the norms. And I also find in my own house, like there's more yelling in our house than there was in my house. Because there's another set of cultural norms, right? Or another set of subconscious expectations of what parenting is about. So I find the whole thing fascinating, but I do have to check myself quite a bit and say, okay, that might not have been how you were raised, but it doesn't mean that it's worse or better or anything else. Like really checking my judgments.
Mm-hmm. That's great. How about you,
I
Gabby?
just, yeah, I was just thinking like mine was pretty much the opposite. But our house was kind of like what you were saying. My mom was always working, and we a lot of times she wasn't available for us. And when she was, it was a lot of yelling. It was a lot of frustration. It was a lot of harsh discipline. It was a lot of criticism. And that's just how it was for me. So as a parent, subconsciously, that would sometimes be the first reaction. That would be the first thought. That would be the first thing, is to yell, to criticize, to be harsh. And it took some awareness of that, subconscious automatic, reaction, and acknowledging that that is not how I wanted to show up. That is not how I wanted to present myself or do things. And so it took a little bit of a shift in gears to, even though that was the automatic how I was raised and what I grew up as thinking of as normal parenting, and kind of figuring out, what works for me as a parent and how I wanted to treat and raise my children. But that was the automatic. And it still is there. It still is. Like right now, I told my kids that I'm working right now, and I hear all this noise going on down there. And that automatic subconscious is wanting to yell over there and be,
Right.
told y'all not to make that much noise. I told y'all not to let the dog out so he wouldn't be working. It's okay. Things will be fine. We can address it, later in a more peaceful, calm way. But that subconscious just way of learning is definitely there. And I don't even think about it. It just pops up.
Well, it is your autopilot,
It totally is my autopilot.
which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, because I don't want to always be yelling and screaming and being negative and mean, because I don't want that to be how my kids remember me.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I don't want to negatively affect their their sense of, of what it's like to be in our home. I want them to want to be at home, peaceful home. Definitely I want to set boundaries and discipline and all that stuff. Doesn't mean it's a free for all here, but at the same time, that automatic thought to react in a very explosive way, I have to see it coming as it rises, and then think through it and tell myself there are other ways to respond and show up than that.
Absolutely. How about you, Beth? Anything come to your mind?
Yeah. And not that there's anything wrong with this, but I want to just start out with that. But I grew up in a very like German stoic type of environment where subconsciously I think I took in that it was you don't have feelings, like, or you don't express your feelings. And maybe I took in you don't, it's not okay to have big feelings or express your feelings. And I had an older brother that when, as a child looking for, approval from your older brother, and he would, make fun of me when I would have emotions. And so I think I learned at an early age to just like be very guarded with my emotions and to not be vulnerable. And if I did have a very strong emotion, that there was something wrong with me. And so I think subconsciously, to be honest with you, like I've had this thought of there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And I think it actually manifested as me attacking myself and having an autoimmune disease. That's just kind of my own thinking and self-diagnosis. But yeah, that's I think what happened.
Wow. I bet
Yeah.
you're at 100%. For me, it's interesting because my parents divorced when I was around 5. And I think about that a lot because my parents were so different, and the messages I got from my parents were so different, especially around money. My mom was a very big saver, and my dad was a big spender. So growing up with that kind of conflict between money was really fascinating for me, that I've had to really unpack and address a lot. So we know that it's the subconscious mind's job to keep you safe, to keep you to respond exactly how you're programmed. And it's that part of your mind that causes you to feel emotionally and physically uncomfortable whenever you try to do something new. And I'm sure we all can relate to that. Anybody wants to share an example of where you feel like your subconscious mind is trying to stop you when you're trying to move forward, especially in business?
How about starting a podcast, ladies?
Exactly. Right? Putting yourself out there, your subconscious mind is like, no, 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 stop. For sure. How about you, Gabby? Anything come to you?
Oh yeah, my subconscious mind automatically says, it's not going to work. You don't know what you're doing. Um, you know, uh, you're not going to be able to succeed. You're not going to be able to help anyone. especially when it comes to like weight loss coaching, which is, you know, what my focus is. There's so many medications out there for weight loss. It's like, who needs coaching now? They just can jab themselves once a week or take the pills and, you know, they can melt the fat away. Like who would pay for coaching? So those things come up subconsciously, which is terrible. And I have to be like, why is that coming up? You know, and back to what you mentioned earlier about, you know, maybe some of it growing up with the overly harsh criticism, you know, all that negative talk is what my brain just goes to automatically. Negative, 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 negative. And so I hear it and I look at it and, you know, to examine it a little bit and say, but, you know, there are many, many ways to be able to help people, not just, uh, not just that way. And so, yeah, when it comes to the weight loss coaching business, subconscious is like, who needs coaching? They could take pills or get a surgery and then it's all fixed.
But is it really fixed? Or are you just reading it for
Oh
another?
no, we see it. People who have, you know, the surgeries gain all their weight back. You maximize the doses of the medications, gain all their weight back or don't lose any weight. You know, coaching the mind is one of the most important things that we could do. And identifying those automatic kind of subconscious thoughts and triggers that sabotage us or that are problematic for us are super important. If we never tackle those things, it's going to be really hard to be successful in any arena of our life. So no, those things are not, all those, you know, negative talk is not always true.
For sure. How about you, Elise?
Yeah, I think for me, I've been, you know, taking so many risks lately that I really do have to keep so much of my subconscious in check. My parents, you know, like let's go back to like your childhood. My parents were not risk takers. They stayed in their same professions their whole career. So what I'm doing is so foreign to what I know, that my fear comes up very regularly. Pretty much every time I start something new. And you know, when you're an entrepreneur and you own your own business, everything is new.
For sure.
I'm going to go back to this. I started out as a respiratory therapist. I've never had an ounce of training in running a business or putting myself out there. The amount of courage that I have had to muster up or develop every day. I feel it every day. I feel every day I'm doing something that's out of my comfort zone, something different than what I know or what I think I know. So for me, it's every day, and it's managing the courage, it's managing the asshole in our brains, and it is understanding where my subconscious is coming from.
Great. I think that makes sense. What they say is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Can I
Right,
shift anything?
right,
How
right.
about you, Beth? Anything?
Oh, absolutely. Just the fact of being vulnerable in being an entrepreneur and business owner, putting yourself out there to be seen and heard. You know, my subconscious, when I was trying to be seen and heard as a child, I was made fun of and ridiculed or told, you know, just, oh, just be quiet. So, overcoming the exact opposite of what I was taught, is very challenging, for sure.
For sure. So your subconscious mind also is that part of your mind that enjoys a good daydream. You know, you get into that alpha brainwave state, and it's a very meditative state. If you've ever driven somewhere and arrived at your destination and don't remember the drive, it's because your subconscious mind took over the drive. It influences our behaviors, thoughts, and feelings without us even being aware of it. It stores all of our memories, experience, beliefs, and knowledge, even those we don't even consciously remember. And it's constantly processing information from our environment and experiences. It helps us make sense of the world and respond to situations based on past experiences and learned behaviors. And for example, fears, desires, and past traumas stored in our subconscious can affect how we respond to certain situations. And it can be accessed through certain techniques. Even though it operates below the level of your consciousness, it can be accessed and influenced through various techniques such as hypnosis, meditation, and visualization. Do you guys ever do any meditation or visualization? Yes.
Yes.
I haven't delved. Meditation for me is really challenging. You know, at least the way that my perception of meditation is, you know, kind of sitting quietly. It's just really hard for me to do that. So that's something. So the coaching part, having actively thinking through things, you know, is at least from my perception of what meditation is, it's really challenging. So it's kind of like I have to actively be thinking about planning, doing. And that's my way through that coaching part to access those automatic thoughts, beliefs. Yeah, that would be my preference for me, is kind of doing the self-coaching versus the meditation part.
Yeah,
I
I
actually
would piggyback on that I do meditate every night, but it's guided meditation.
Mm,
You know, I'm a rule follower, so tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? But if I was left to my own devices, that I agree with you, Gabby. It's challenging for me to do unguided meditation.
yeah. And maybe that's something I should challenge myself to try at at some point. But even like with exercising or something where it's just, I feel like I want to be distracted by something, some music or radio, you know, a show or something. Even when I'm driving, it's like I feel like I need some kind of input, some stimulus. That's probably something I should explore. Like, why can't I, you know, handle my quiet, you know, my own thoughts, like quietness? But yeah, I like this. I really love self-coaching or working with the coach.
For me, it can be as simple as a walking meditation where I just like let my mind wander, or mowing the lawn. I think like the mowing or even vacuuming, that like doing a repetitive moment and just letting my mind wander. For me, that's kind of, I can do meditation that way as well, or cleaning, or just doing something mundane with my body, just letting my mind wander. Okay, so your subconscious mind never sleeps, rests, or takes a break. Isn't that interesting? Because it controls all your vital processes and functions of your body, controls your heartbeat, your blood circulation, digestion, and elimination. And it takes the habit of taking everything literally. It doesn't differentiate between negative and positive. So if you continually tell yourself you're never going to succeed, it's likely to turn out that way. So our subconscious is always focused on the present moment, obviously, because it wants to keep us safe. And that's why it's so important to be mindful of your inner thoughts, such as I'm successful, rather than I will be successful. And the subconscious communicates in images, feelings, and metaphors. And that's why stories are so powerful, because it focuses on emotion rather than logic or reason. We know babies don't lack self-confidence. The only thing babies have fear is two things: falling and loud noises. Every other fear is learned. And that's because it's imprinted or dripped on as a child by your parents. Have you ever noticed people who are anxious, and when you get to know them, you realize their upbringing was with one or more parents who were anxious, or that person felt like they needed to walk on eggshells growing up? So understanding your subconscious mind can provide insight into your behavior, motivations, thoughts, and patterns. By being aware, we can make positive changes in our lives, improving our overall well-being. And there's ways to become aware of your subconscious beliefs. I guess number one, look at the results you have today. Those are all a combination and a correlation of your subconscious beliefs. But journaling allows a stream of consciousness to flow through you. So I would say perhaps pick a topic that you'd like, some insight around. For me, I did my beliefs around money. I wanted to know, what did I learn or observe from my mom? What did I learn or observe from my dad? And just start writing. When you come up with beliefs, you get really curious, you get compassionate, and you ask yourself the questions from every single angle. And you can come up with as many examples as possible about why what you've written may or may not be true. So anything you guys think about that?
So you triggered me when you said beliefs and what those beliefs are. And I'm curious, and we might not have the answer here, but I do a lot of work on on values. What are your values? And how do your values determine your visions or your dreams or or where you want to go in your life? And I think we're saying the same thing. Those core beliefs that live in your subconscious, I think that beliefs and values are very similar.
So too.
Yeah.
What are you valuing?
Yeah. And I think that, I do that a lot in my coaching circles and on my retreats, starting at the very beginning, right? If you want to build to a vision to reality or living your most purposeful life, so we start right at your values. What are those core beliefs? Where do they come from? I love that exercise that you do. What did you get from your mom? What did you get from your dad? Or what did you get from the people who raised you, whether it was an aunt or a grandfather or whoever? What did you get from them that you see now?
Yeah, and thinking about that, some of those beliefs can be totally contradictory. And, thinking about my mom growing up, she was she's from Mexico. So a lot of the beliefs that were brought down were, on, women should be subservient to, their husbands, their older brothers, their grandparents. There were certain, you put everyone else's needs, before your own. But at the same time, she was very independent. She had to do a lot of things on her own. So there was some of taught to be the best version of just the strongest, most calloused kind of version of yourself so that you can survive, so that you can make it without depending on others. So it was kind of some contradictory things that were, presented to me, and thinking about those values. Well, what is actually important to me? Is there some in between? Is there some kind of combination that would be, a much better fit? And that's something that even to this day is still, for me being a Mexican American woman, still something that I have to kind of juggle some traditional roles that I do cherish and I value, but at the same time, being successful, being an example of what is possible, kind of juggling those things.
Yeah.
Is still a work in progress.
That's amazing. How about you, Beth? Anything?
Yeah, well, I just think that's a really good to explore, like what are your beliefs and where do they come from? For me, hard work is just embedded into, I think, my DNA. Like as long as you are doing hard work and you're doing your best, everything will work out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it true? Is a good question to ask. Is it true? And do I want to keep this belief?
Right.
So let me ask you, or let me tell you about how to change a belief once you've uncovered one that you'd like to shift. So first of all, bring all your memories and evidence for this belief into your conscious mind by saying them all out loud or writing them down without censoring them, no matter how silly, selfish, or nasty they sound. Express the feelings you feel about the belief. It can be fear, anger, sadness. So all those emotions can leave your subconscious as well. You also need to have compassion for yourself because it's critical to really deeply know that your mind only created that belief to protect you and keep you safe. And then I like to ask the wisest part of me, what would I like to believe instead? And then if you imagine throwing your old belief away, imagine the new belief being true and feeling the feelings it brings as you see you living your new belief. Like being good at something, being good at speeches, or whatever you want to believe that would help you in your life. Keep seeing the new belief coming true in your imagination and feeling the good feelings that go with it. Connecting with emotions is super powerful. You can do it once a day, or better yet, twice a day. And you look for and stack evidence in your new belief. Say it out loud and journal it. So combining the feeling with the visualization, seeing yourself doing it, is really helpful. And so typically the old belief attempts to come back into your life, into your subconscious. All you do is say, I don't believe in you anymore. And just imagine just kind of taking it and putting it in the trash. And so once your new belief is in your subconscious, your attitude and behavior will change and shift to support it. So well, that sounds really simple, but it's really true.
I love that. And as you were saying that, I was visioning writing one of those beliefs that I don't want to believe anymore and crumpling it up and literally throwing that in a trash can.
Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, metaphor is really helpful too, throwing things in the trash that no longer serve you. Yeah.
And I go back to Beth's a couple podcasts ago, she talked about emptying your purse, right? We can empty our purse of our values too, right? And kind of do that same whole process. Look through them, see which one serves us and what fits us still, put the ones that still work back into the purse and throw the other ones out.
And you may want to keep them too, but it's good to at least explore them and say, is this serving me? Is this going to take me to where I want to go in my life?
Mhm.
Anything else?
This was a great conversation. We don't spend much time thinking about our subconscious, so thank you for this topic, Nancy.
Well, this was a great episode, ladies, and thank everyone for listening. And please share, if you could, give us a review. Until next time, live happy, live healthy, and live with purpose.
Hey, one more thing before we leave. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are certified professional coaches, but this broadcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next week.